Hello everyone, today's Scorched Toys at anymoon.com is taking a look back at Bandai's super parts for their DX YF-29 toys. Alto was shown piloting a super part equipped YF-29 in the Macross Frontier movie Wings of Goodbye, and Bandai also released super parts for their commemorative Skull 1 scheme, as well as the Isamu and Ozma customs seen in the video game Macross 30 Voices Across the Galaxy. Here you can see all the release dates, and it's worth noting that Alto's YF-29 has been reissued twice since his super parts were sold, so demand and secondary prices for those parts are high. As these were all Tamashii Web exclusives, you could never grab them at your favorite store, and you'll certainly have to scour the secondary market for them today. If you're shopping for just about anything else, you can support this channel and shop like me by clicking the link in the comments below to head to Big Bad Toy Store. As these were Tamashii Web exclusives, they were sent out in brown shipper boxes with a bit of text identifying the content. Inside the shipper is another box more akin to a traditional retail packaging, but rendered in only 2 tones. The boxes are small and efficient. Sliding the contents out of the box, you will find the super parts and instructions, and we'll begin by following those instructions to install the super parts on a toy. These parts are one size fits all, and to prove that, I am going to install the Ozma parts on the Rod YF-29 who never got his own release. We're going to start with this piece here, which is clearly the wing attachment. It has a little trapdoor on the top, and we can fingernail in there and open it up to reveal a missile bay. So that's cool. And if we flip it over, there's the exact same thing on the other side. So we have missile bays on either side of the wing with, we'll call it good enough missile detail. The hinges are concealed. You can bring everything closed up, and you shouldn't have too obvious of a seam on the top or in the front. So pretty clean way of doing missile bays. We also have this extension in the front with fold out prongs. Kind of looks like a harpoon. I believe it's a fold wave amplifier. There is painted detail within. Would have been nice if it was clear plastic inserts, but it is what it is. To install the part, if you have the wing out, you're going to recess the wing, and then we're just going to take this piece here and we're going to slide it inside, apply a little pressure, and it will click into place like so. Coming at it from the other side now, you can see there is a hole in front of the engine, and we have this piece here which has a peg on it, and it has this section here which slides inside the engine. And I find it's helpful to put a little pressure forward on that piece we already installed on the wing, and then push in, and it'll snap right into place rather authoritatively. And you can see everything's nice and tight and synced up. Now we're going to install the extra engine, which is this piece here. It has a slide out piece, and it kind of locks just a little bit in the most extended position. And there is a ball joint booster at the end there. And there are little teeth in here that correspond to slots on the toy there. And all we have to do is slide this thing right up against that vertical stabilizer, and it'll lock right into place. And it's actually a pretty secure fit once it's on there. All right, both engines fully extended, and then we're going to take our shield cover, which looks like this, and you can see it's got a couple of prongs at the top here, a couple pegs at the top, that go into the slots on top of the missile, and then it just kind of catches the back of the shield as well. So we can slide that up and press down on it when it gets into the right spot, and it should be flush. So here you can see it is not flush. I'm just gonna hold it on there, pop it down into place. A probably better way to do that would be to remove the entire shield and put the whole shield back on again, but you don't have to do that. You could do what I just did there. Here are the Ozma parts completely installed. Just again, trying to show you that you can fit any part on any toy, mix and match them however you want. There's nothing unique about any of the super parts. These don't really work, but Rod never got his own, so what are you gonna do? Now, one problem you may run into as you apply the super parts to the toy is that the engines become too loose and pivot on you when you don't want them to. It might not happen, but it does happen on some toys. And an easy solution for that is to pivot your engine like so, and put a piece of clear tape, just cut a little tiny piece of clear tape and put it right in here. It'll then generate enough friction where it won't be problematic. You can handle your toy, whoosh it around. It'll be just fine. It won't pivot without you intending it to do so. Now, while we're looking at the 30th anniversary parts, the 30th anniversary toy has some odd choices where they put white paint on white plastic and it doesn't show up very well. And they doubled down on that with the super parts. So here we have a Jolly Roger that you really can't see because again, it's white on white. So weird paint choice there, but otherwise same parts as the other toys, functioning the same way. And when we put those Ozma super parts on the correct vehicle, this is what you get. Looks pretty good. You've already seen that you retain this functionality, but you also retain the functionality of the integrated guns. So we could still bring these up and pull everything out, just like you can on that underlying YF-29 toy when you don't have the super parts installed. So that is a big plus as well. You're not losing any of the fun factor just because you've placed those super parts on the toy. I like these super parts on the original Alto YF-29. I think the different trim and body paints come together well to give it enough visual difference to be worthwhile. I think on something like the Osamu version, where it's pretty much just more body color, it's not really visually exciting enough to make a big difference for me. So it is maybe something that goes from one version to the other as far as your preference. Now I do sometimes have the intake covers on, sometimes not. These super parts are meant to be atmospheric, so there is no right or wrong. On a VF1, you theoretically should have the intakes covered because that would only happen in space, that I would have super parts on. With these toys, not so much. You can do whatever you please. There is a lock on the front of the amplifiers. Sometimes it works better than others. So on this Osamu toy, it very easily falls back in. You might have similar experiences with the boosters on the back. Some of these might be a little stiffer in their lock than others. I've also found the ball jointed booster sometimes very stiff to the point where it essentially doesn't even work. So that is another thing to look out for from a durability standpoint. All right, let's transform these toys, take a look at them in Gear Walk. Bandai introduced a lot of improvements with the YF-29 toy. It was the first toy after the version 1 VF-25 toy, before the renewal VF-25s, and really showed you where they were going with things and improved the toy immensely, particularly in Gear Walk mode. Now, unfortunately, one of the big improvements they made for Gear Walk mode, which is a hinge underneath the toy, and you can see the gun held onto that hinge gimmick still works, but we can remove this and that gun stays on there pretty well. And you'll see there is a plastic piece here that comes forward and supports the entire weight of the back of the toy. Now I've got a piece of paper wedged in here because on this version 1, this is the, I shouldn't say version 1, on the first issue of the Alto toy, this piece wasn't quite wide enough in the front, so it doesn't do, now that the paper is out of there, doesn't do a great job keeping the back straight. You can see it's humped over there, so that's not great. On the 30th anniversary version of the toy and later issues, they took that piece and they reinforced it towards the front, and now it holds all of the weight up. And these super parts don't weigh a lot, but it holds that weight up perfectly fine. It's a nice straight back throughout, and Gear Walk mode handles just as well with the super parts on as it does without, provided again you don't have that first release of Alto. And here we have every single gimmick of the YF-29, and there are several employed simultaneously, showing you that everything is still an option when you've got those super parts on. You still have the integrated leg missile bays that open up, nothing being impinged upon there. You have the opening shoulder missiles, no problem there. I've got the bays open on top and bottom of the super parts as well. Everything working out. I've got those guns lifted up on top, holding the gun now instead of tucked in beneath. everything works and looks good doing it, and the toy still handles just fine. So high marks. If you are a fan of gear walk mode, you can use these super parts and it's not going to cause any sort of issues with any of that fun factor that this toy has. One of the common complaints about the YF-29 toy is that the joints can get loose. Some of the joints that get loose include the twists at the knees. So if you're having a hard time with your toy sliding out like so, then what you want to do is grab your display stand and put it on. It works using the same display stand and adapter that come with the YF-29. No need for any special parts. Yes, it's a really basic display stand, but in a pinch, this is how you can overcome any loose joints throughout the legs that might be bumming you out. As we get to Batroid mode, we do make a few changes to the super parts. We're going to collapse these boosters because you can see they're pretty close to the ground if you don't. And we're going to collapse in that amplifier on the wingtip there. Now, you'll notice that the super parts, other than the shield, are almost entirely back kibble, and that is very much to the detriment of handling Batroid mode. Getting this thing to handle well with the super parts attached is precarious at best. I have to bring the intakes, the leading edge of the intakes, inside behind the layered crotch to get the legs stable enough to actually stand with all that weight. And even so, you can see it wants to topple backwards. So there's a lot of poses that are not going to be friendly. And if your joints are loose at all, it just creates more and more issues. Like this arm here, that heavier shield stops that arm from being able to stay up like I would like it to, because that joint is just not tight enough to work with these super parts. So bit of a bummer when it comes to Batroid mode, both from the aesthetic and the fact that it's just bulk on the back of the toy, but also in then handling the toy as well. So to make things work in Batroid mode, you've got the legs way flared out, and you've tried to make it into some poses and it's just fallen over on you or something along those lines. Now you could obviously bring one leg back, the other leg forward, and get some more dynamic stances than just this. But it is really difficult to deal with, so a much, much better option is to go ahead and grab that included display stand, throw the toy on there, pose it as you will with no problem. The display stand supports the front of the toy and the back, which gives it a nice looking posture. You can have a lot of fun, make it a really good looking display piece with these super parts attached. Generally, I really only like the super parts in fighter mode. I feel like Batroid mode, things really fall apart and Gearwalk's just meh. But this to me is a pretty impressive looking display. So I'd be pretty tempted to leave these super parts on. I just wanted to show you again all of the gimmicks of that underlying YF-29 toy. Still 100% in play. Super parts in every mode, not interfering with all of the cool attributes of the YF-29 toy design. So that's a big plus for me. I hate when I get an accessory and it makes the underlying toy less cool. The parts stay on super well. They don't inhibit my fun factor other than the weight balance issues and kind of making the display stand a requirement in Batroid mode, but still really good looking, particularly the Ozma scheme and what we got going on here. Check out my full article on anymoon.com. Subscribe, and thanks for watching.